Hello and welcome to the FinanceFeeds podcast series. This is episode number 4 and today's special guest is James Trescothick. Hello James.
Hello Andrew, thank you for having me.
My great pleasure. And actually, for those who probably know James is a market commentator and is very well known among the retail and institutional sector and is based in Cyprus.
Indeed, thank you very, very, very much, Andrew. Indeed, I am I like to call myself market commentator, not a market analyst, because that gives the idea that I know exactly what's going to happen. And let's face it, none of us actually do, but I still like to commentate anyway. First of all, let's obviously talk a little bit about what should be called Trump Day, and obviously the impact on the market yesterday with the shock announcement of obviously Trump winning the US presidency.
Well, that's absolutely your expert arena. I've already nailed my colours to the mast in terms of corporate side of things and everything else. But you're the expert when it comes to this.
Well, like I say, obviously we had a massive sell-off on the initial shock of obviously Trump winning the presidency. But any trader or analyst out there, or commentator, should I say, out there, will tell you this is not a surprise event. This is not a new thing. Any sort of major event or shock to the market, you will see a big movement or a big sell-off. Brexit, for example. Like yesterday, obviously, we saw a massive drop in the dollar on the announcement and a massive weakness, obviously, in the equities during the Asian session. But of course, since then, we are seeing a rebound. Yes. And I do think what we're seeing now, Andrew, is a lot of analysts actually looking on or living with the fact that we have got the Trumpster in the White House in January and what the impact that could mean to the market. And I'm thinking, sort of the currency market, a lot of people are now looking towards it being quite positive for the greenback.
Well, they are right, and I would agree with them. I said the same. I'm not by any means. I'm a technology expert, industry figure, not a markets person. So I'm by no means an expert on this matter. But from an overall point of view, America and Britain are back on the road to conservatism, and actually the Brexit was safeguarding London's financial and market sector and its whole institutional sector. I see that the Trump win in America to be a safeguarding of America's industry.
Well, let's say in market terms, the way that sort of the currency market are looking at it is after this short, you are seeing a rebound, and obviously the dollar yen, for example, did touch 101 yesterday. Bank of Japan obviously got very scared, but it's now back about 106. But they're actually looking at some of his statements he's made. There's several factors why people are now seeing a stronger USD in the long term. First of all, of course, we have the grand old party, obviously in control of the White House and in control of most of the Senate. So any fiscal policies or new acts will pretty much go through unstopped. Plus, you've obviously got his action on maybe lowering corporate taxes, which in the US, as you know, Andrew, is the highest some of the highest currently in the world. Him lowering in corporate taxes will obviously incentivize businesses, growth, income, spending, and higher inflation. But I think the most important thing why people are now seeing a positive influence on the USD is the fact that his current or previous statements on the actions of the Federal Reserve, he's been very critical. He has not liked this bit by bit raising of interest rates. The fact that when he comes in power in January, he can't sack good old Janet Yellen, of course, but he can put her under pressure. And because he's slightly more aggressive, the market's sort of maybe double guessing now that we could see a lot more aggressive interest rate hikes in the US next year, which of course will indeed make the USD a lot stronger. As well as that, you have obviously the import tariffs, the North Atlantic Agreement, which he absolutely hates. So all these factors, the market is now sort of looking at it as a big positive for the greenback. So let's see. Definitely.
Absolutely. Now that's it. That's right. Now I'm with you on that. I think the brokerages, the retail brokerages recently, who reset their margins back as normal as soon as the election was over, I think it's an even keel all round. However, this brings me on to something which we have talked about and actually raised everybody's eyebrows this morning, is it proper and correct, and to what level is it proper and correct for us in the financial services, financial technology and electronic trading industry to talk about politics?
That's the good age-old question, isn't it?
Andrew?
Business and politics.
Exactly. You know how opinionated I am. So
yes, of course. But I think that at the end of the day, there's the old sort of statement. Of course, they try and keep business out of politics and politics out of business. It's impossible to do that because they're married. Let's face it, there's mutual benefit for business and politics to be together. They're like Laura and Hardy, you know. But when it comes down to individual opinions by an MP or by a politician or indeed a CEO or somebody representing a company, that's a big no-no, because I think it's a bit of a PR nightmare. Now, obviously, I read your article this morning, Andrew. I liked it very much, and it's very, very good. And I say, Miss Lynn, of course, she's entitled to her opinions, like everybody, her personal opinions. But as you know, and I know, nothing divides more than politics. But speaking out about a politician where you're trading in his backyard, so to speak, especially when he's a man of heavy influence come January, it's a bit dangerous. It's more like, as they say, you know what, on your own doorstep, you should never do it.
That's for sure. I think it depends how you do it and what exactly your point is. For example, this is a very conservative industry. It's, you know, you're either, think about the career paths of most of the executives. They're either on the technology side, so they come from a consultancy, like, you know, private school, then it's a computer science degree, and then an internship at someone like Merrill Lynch or Goldman Sachs in the technology sector, or Price Waterhouse that's contracted to one of the banks. Then middle management at one of the large companies in London or New York, and then senior executive level. So it's a career path. It's a capital orientated society, and then you have the brokerage side, which is also, you know, follows us. The two are hand in hand. So yes, there is a need for executives to consider the regions that they are operating in. And if you look at the main regions are Singapore, Hong Kong, London, New York, Chicago for the exchange-listed derivative sector. These are major sectors. So what happens politically in those regions is very important to owners of large companies. But you can, you know, as far as that's concerned, analysing the political impact is about what would happen to our business if there was a socialist government, or what would happen to our business if there was a conservative capitalist government, and then how to analyse it. What happened this morning, what you're referring to, is the co-CEO of Singaporean futures firm Phillip Capital, who actually sent an email distribution letter to a mailing list with what was really not far short of a rant about President Trump on the second day of his presidency, calling him a misogynistic racist, and that America is doomed, and actually even worse, referring to the American electorate as white working class people and taking the tone of it's not intellectual to vote for Trump, when millions of Americans who are the potential customers of this particular company democratically elected their president.
Yes. Yeah. Well, look, like you say, business and, as you rightfully said, business and politics go hand in hand.
They do.
Certainly, obviously, if you're going up with the career ladder, etc., and you do, like you say, you will comment on what political system will affect your business and things of this nature. There is partnerships, there's no doubt. But when it comes to personal ranting or personal opinion on an individual nature, that's extremely dangerous.
It is.
Because it's wrong as well. It's a PR nightmare. You should. It's the same for an MP or a politician as well. You should never be personally opinionated or show a personal link to an organisation or anything of that nature, because it's just going to backfire on you.
This is actually the difference between being analytical and being emotional and unprofessional, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, clearly everybody has an opinion on, obviously, the Trumpster or Mr. Trump. But, like I say, there's personal opinions. And there's the old saying, of course, everybody has an opinion, because everybody has, you know what, and they often think that their own opinion doesn't stink. But when it comes to the corporate or the financial sector, personal attacks or personal comments on personal politicians or personal people of influence both business and political, should be kept to, say, the bar, or to yourself, or to your friends. It should definitely never be on the World Wide Web.
That's right, and they should also be, if they are on the World Wide Web, or if they are letters to customers, then it should be something that's constructive and a reason that is business critical. So, for example, this particular thing is imagine if you were a clearing member on an exchange. Yes. It costs a lot of money to be a clearing member on a Chicago exchange. At CME and IC, it's something like $500,000 to be a clearing member. Then you have to pay all the transaction fees. It's very expensive business. So these are not, as described in this particular letter, white working class people who are not educated. These are clearing members with massive capital bases who understand the market. And America is the number one region for institutional style portfolios of equities and futures and things like that. Most people with some professional career there do have an equities portfolio and so forth. So therefore, it's usually exchange listed. So Philip Capital broke into the US market last year, and the acquisition by the merger between IC and Singapore Exchange SGX was critical to that particular move. So they moved into the US. They are making their revenues from exchange clearing members in North America, and then ridiculing them for voting for a conservative president and actually calling them
stupid.
Yes, and racist. And you have even a reference to people who are talking about a white man voting for a white president and therefore it's racist. This is absolutely not the right sort of behaviour for a CEO of a large company.
No, absolutely. Like I say, she's entitled to her opinion. Everybody is. But to broadcast it and to send it, like you rightfully said, to clients, and like you say, you're actually criticising your own clients, as you rightfully said as well. It's just not the proper conduct. And it's no way, like I say, even if you do have this opinion, you want to express it, you need to be balanced at the same time. You need to be properly analytical and look at both sides of the subject. Not just one particular view. And this is where it should be kept at. You cannot do that. It's a PR nightmare.
Absolutely.
It really is.
It is indeed a PR nightmare. And also, if you want to, for example, look at it from the other side, in the early 1980s, when I was a child, there was a large influence by the trade unions and the actual Socialist Party in various countries in Europe. And Britain, where I lived at the time, was still recovering from that period. And what happened was many senior executives in the financial sector, some of whom were, as is Miss Lim, an immigrant to the UK, and they worked their way up to a senior executive level, were actually working 6 to 7 days a week for no extra salary because other members of staff were off sick and for sometimes a year at a time when there was really nothing wrong with them, protected by the trade unions, or there were people on strike because they were demanding money that the company didn't have to pay them. There was 3-day working weeks. There was all sorts of political unrest and industrial unrest. But those particular executives bit their teeth and worked hard and didn't go and do things like that because they were good, hard-working people who realised that the only way to prosper and turn that situation round was to concentrate on their business and not to go up against the system.
Absolutely. And then obviously Thatcher came in, obviously around that, the early 80s, and started to change all that, but love her or hate her, it's all a matter of opinion again. Clearly it was an emotional response. It was a knee-jerk reaction.
Yes, indeed.
And I think yesterday that event shocked many people.
Yes, it did. Except for me, it went exactly how I thought it would, including all of the states and the voting bloc. Exactly, there was no surprise there.
No. Well, yes, you're the guru, my friend. You're the Jedi. We should come and see you next time. To predict the future. But obviously it's a shock. It's a knee-jerk reaction. But I really do think, in my personal opinion, when you are a representative of a large financial firm, or indeed even if you were a politician, personally linking yourself with or commenting on about that direct opinions on politics or linking yourself with a financial institution personally is very, very dangerous. And is wrong.
That's right.
Right, you know and I know, Andrew, we're in the FX industry. We have been for a long time, and certainly in Cyprus, the amount of gossip, internet stories out there, and speculation, of course. You know and I know, for example, if it's on the internet, it must be true, right? Okay.
Yes,
But obviously, there is obviously speculation of a number of FX firms over here who are heavily connected to major politicians.
Yeah. Would you be referring? Would you, by any chance, be referring to a particular politician who is in a senior position with whose name begins with N, and a particular company that has a boat?
There's quite a few FX companies that has a boat, so I'm happy to say possibly. But like I said, there's the internet speculation, there's stories, etc., where there is sort of rumours, etc., of protection or help or assistance of some sort of nature. But the danger is, and this is something I can never quite understand why MPs like to link themselves with certain organisations, because at the end of the day, if there is something which happens, then you're obviously going to be tarnished with that brush.
Yes.
And at the same time, I'm not quite sure why certain financial institutions, for example, link themselves to politicians as well. I guess in some ways they're thinking, if I link myself to a politician, I'm obviously a trustworthy and honest company, which is funny because, let's face it, politicians are well known for being honest and trustworthy. So it's a bit of a strange marketing ploy, that. But like I say, at the end of the day, in my personal opinion, you can keep business out of politics because they're married. But individual opinions about politics or individual politicians being linked to organisations, you've got to stop that. It's a no-go.
I agree.
So, at the end of the day, can keep business out of politics, but whatever you do, try and keep it out of the headlines.
Yes.
Simple as that.
I think it's okay for analysts and reporters like you and I to have a specific bias or a specific viewpoint or opinion, because we are supposed to be people who those who want to read our research come to be able to help them aggregate information and form their opinion. But that's a different matter. That's a researched and collated series of information. It's not getting involved with the wrong people or having opinions on emotional subjects that are not relevant to the business.
Absolutely. I mean, as analysts and journalists, Andrew, you've got to try and keep your emotion out of everything. Yeah. And you've got to do your best in a balanced fashion, and obviously with an opinion, because everybody has an opinion, you might have a view, but that opinion, our opinions are often based on, obviously, when I'm talking about the market, based on my research and my analysis.
Yes,
it's not based on my personal preference towards a certain instrument or a certain market, and it's certainly, at the best of times, never emotional. But like I say, at the end of the day, you've got to be very, very careful where you link your personal either position or your personal opinion, because at the end of the day, it's not biased. It's not balanced. It's emotional.
There's no substitute for independence.
Absolutely. Here to that, my friend.
Absolutely.
Here to that.
That's it. So very interesting indeed, and a charismatic and very well described overview of how these particular events should be looked and how the markets can react to them. So very nice to speak to you as always, James.
Absolute pleasure, Andrew. Thank you very much once again for having me. And it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. It's been fun.
And we'll see you very soon.
Indeed. You take care.
You too. That's James Truskothic, who is a very well-known and prominent market commentator in the FX industry over there in Cyprus. Thank you for joining us for episode 4 of the Finance Feeds podcast series. See you again soon. Goodbye.